Let me ask you a question. Do you want to learn Blender Octane's material system? Now, I know it might be scary with all the way the nodes look, but it's actually very easy. By the end of this video, you will have a basic understanding of Blender Octane's material system. We're going to actually do a project. That is the best way to learn it. We have this small little retro Nintendo system here, which we're going to add materials to. Now, if you're interested in modeling something like this, take a look at polygonrunway's channel. That's where I learned out how to model this. But in this video, I'm gonna give you my model to practice on. We'll go step by step on how to use materials, emissive materials, how to do surface imperfections and things like that. Plus, I have a few goodies that I'm gonna also give you guys in the file. So enough of the jibber jabber, let's get straight into the video. All right, so we're inside the file here. Let's straight jump into it and start shading this guy up. I'm gonna go to the shader tab, basically a quick little adjustment here, drag that down. I'm gonna select the console first, add in a new material. And then I typically change this from G to GGX Energy Preserve. I like to take the specular, knock it down to 0.5, something I've just recently started doing. And then I'm gonna go ahead and choose my color. Again, I'm gonna go for the old school NES colors palette. I'm gonna kind of do this gray here, looking cool, maybe a little bit lighter, something like that. I like the way that looks there. And I'm gonna call this first one gray. I'm gonna make a copy. And on this one, I'm gonna call it dark gray. And I'm just going to make it a little bit more darker gray. This is going to be the bottom half of it. Something more like that. I don't want to go total pitch black. And what I should have did before I made a copy of that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my imperfection node that I made here, which you guys will have a copy of. You downloaded this file, you should actually have a copy of this here. And here it is. It's basically, I just put a bunch of noise textures together to form this procedural way of adding some imperfections to the surface of our roughness and stuff like that. So you don't have to use maps, and plus you don't have to worry about unwrapping and all that. It's just something I've kind of been working on just to help the workflow. Kind of zoom in here a little bit closer so we can kind of get a good little shadow here. I'm going to grab the console. I'm going to press backslash just so we can see what we're doing here. And then if you press Control Shift with the node wrangler for Octane on, you can kind of see the noise here. So we got smudges. It kind of just adds that here. You can control the scale of it right here with scale. So be careful. It does go to negative. Again, this is a work in progress node. So eventually I'm going to cap it so it doesn't do that. But for now, kind of just go something like maybe that. I like that. Kind of use as smears. And then I like this patchy noise here. It's a little bit more detailed, thin grain nodes. This one's still I gotta work on, but you know, it is work in progress. I'm gonna add that little patchiness and probably crank it up to half. So let's jump back into our node, right click on that, and we can kind of see what's happening there. Just something to break up that surface perfection. What I'm also going to do here, what I did in my original, I'm going to add in a dirt node. And if we just come in here, go to search, there it is, dirt texture. I'm gonna add in a dirt texture node. And I'm going to press Control Spacebar to bring this full screen. I like to work like this back and forth. And what I'm going to do is plug this into the albedo. Okay, pull that over here. I'm going to add in a color gradient map. And again, I have some of these nodes saved to my quick keys. You literally just go into the list, select the one that you want, right click, add to quick keys. So the ones that I'm constantly using, I just press Q and here they are. There is a couple of little bugs. Some of them don't appear once you save them. So just kind of have to deal with it. And I'm going to unplug this really quickly, copy this, Control C over the top of that. And I want to paste that on my black side here, like that. Let's go ahead and plug this back in. All right, and to see what this is doing, I'm going to press Control Shift on top of that. And then I'm going to go to the noise. I'm going to crank it up to 10. And you can see what we're going to basically be doing with this. I'm going to go to details, put that to 5. Before we do that, let's go ahead and invert the normals. And that's going to change everything. So let me go back here and grab the radius, bring the radius down all the way, and then just slowly creep it back in. And there it is. There it is. Hold Shift and just kind of bring that back into play. Details, I'm going to back the details off a little bit. Just want something a little bit of some kind of stylized look here on the edges. Take this. I'm going to probably go to 0.5, something there. I kind of like that. Okay, let's go back to the tolerance to get rid of those lines. Maybe we can see if that softens it up. Tolerance all the way. Nope, doesn't really soften it up. Go back this way. It's fine. I'm gonna make it very subtle anyways. So let's jump back over to universal material. And there you can see that it's on the darker edge. I want to flip that. So I'm just going to come over here and go to flip color ramp. Okay. And then what I want to do, I just want to copy this color here. And on the edges, I just want it to be slightly, I think maybe darker. Like there's a little bit of just dirt and grime on it. Again, just something subtle, very subtle. Or maybe let's flip it and see what it looks like the opposite way. Flip ramp, maybe even a little bit more. Something like that. So I'm just kind of just getting this little darker, dingy area here on the side, just the, plain stuff. So plus you can learn how to use the dirt node. So we've got that going. Now what we're going to do, I should have done, is I'm going to take this, jump back over here. I'm going to copy this whole setup here. And I'm going to go back to my first gray material and I'm going to paste these in here. Go to paste and let's do the same thing here. Just drop that into the albedo and this one into the roughness. And then again, I'm going to copy this because this was my top color. I'm going to go copy, grab this here, paste it there, plug that back in. Okay, so that's what the top cover is looking like. I'm going to press backslash to bring back the whole console. So that's the gray on top. I'm going to click this bottom one and I'm going to add on the dark gray material. There we go. You can adjust the color ramps and the colors a little bit more better. Like I already can see, it's a little bit too heavy here on the top. But again, we're just learning the basics here and you can get in there and play with it. I'm just going to go ahead and lighten that up just a tad bit. All right, so we got that good. Now what I want to do is give this one here a black color. I'm going to go ahead and load up the dark gray. I'm going to go ahead and make another copy of it. And I'm just going to call it black. I'm going to go ahead and just darken up this bottom color here. Not all the way black, but just a lot more darker to get some more contrast between the two. Copy this color over to this other node, paste it. This one here, these cables, I guess you could give them the same color. And then on these little knobs here, I'm also going to give them the lighter gray. Come in here, scroll, go down to gray. All right, so next what I want to do is give these buttons here a red color. So again, I'm going to repeat the same process here. I'm going to go ahead and click on the button and I'm going to load up the black material. Again, make a new copy. And this time what I'm going to do, I don't need the dirt node on this one. We're just going to be a straight color. I'm going to go ahead and delete that whole section there. And I'm going to take this and then just dial in a little bit of a red color. I've got my color there. Fire up the render, see what it looks like. And I guess, I could go for this muted type look here, but I'm gonna actually bring the value up on that and make it a little bit more brighter. But you can already see the color palette I'm working with. It's kind of more of a pastel style color. So you can do whatever you want though, okay? So we've got that going there on the buttons. I'm just gonna go ahead and rename this one red and then just go ahead and start giving the buttons the same color. I'm going to repeat the same thing down here on the controllers also. Now that we have our color palette, it's fairly easy to start basically just giving these things material. And then the same thing here on the controllers. We'll just give these bottom guys one here. Actually, I can just click on this top material, select this, Control L, link material, or I guess it's the opposite way. Select this, and then select the last color, and then press Control L, link material. And then boom, there that is. So we've got that. And then even this little cartridge area here, go ahead and do the same thing. I'll give it the gray. And then the TV, I'm going to give it its own color. I'm going to grab the red and use the red as my base since we already have the roughness. Oh, I actually kind of like the red TV like that. That's actually pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy and I'm going to change the color. Kind of like something like that. Same thing on these buttons. I'm going to grab the red, make a copy. And on this one here, I might just give him the gray. Probably, you know what? I'm just going to give him the gray. Give him the light gray. Sweet. Now let's get to the TV. Because the TV, we're going to put an image inside of here too. So find out whatever image or whatever you want to put inside of here. Get your material or your image and then bring it in. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the one that I used for my previous render. So on this one, I'm actually going to, let me go ahead and just select this right here, Control B. And I'm actually going to put a whole new material on here because I don't want it to have roughness. This is going to be the screen. I'm going to go ahead and change this to GGX. And again, I'm going to go 0.5 on my specular. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave the specular at 1 because this is going to be my screen, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and bring in an image, RGB image. There's my RGB image. And I'm going to go ahead and load in the image that I chose. I'm going to go ahead and take that, plug that into the albedo. Make sure the gamma is set to 2.2. Whenever we're doing an RGB image, you want to have it set to 2.2 legacy gamma. And I'm also going to add in a 3D transform and a projection, but I'm not going to click on that projection button. I'm going to go press Shift A, and I'm going to go down to projections, and I'm going to go to box projection. Just drag that down and then plug that into projections. Then what I'm also going to do is jump into the UV editor. And you can see here, jump into edit mode, make sure you got face selects, make sure we got all selected. And then what I'm going to do is press U, and I'm going to do a cube projection, and there it is. We should have it pop up there. And then what I'm going to do is come up to this tab here. I'm going to select my image that I chose. Here is the image that I chose. This is a little game that I've been playing on Game Boy Advance with my daughter recently. So that was the motivation of this whole video. And I'm going to go SY to scale it on the Y to get everything to fit in the screen. And then I'm going to go back over here, tab out to object mode, and then I'm going to go into render mode and see what it's looking like. Okay, and it's obviously not matching there correctly, so we're going to have to probably play with this here. Let's go ahead and jump back into edit mode, faces, and let me go back into the shading tab, and let's go ahead and actually kill this box projection. And I'm just going to go project. Okay, there it is, UV mesh project, because I actually UV unwrapped it. So boom, that should have that working there. And now we can see we got it in here, but what I wanted to do is emit light, be like it's a screen, like it's being lit up. So how are we going to do that? Super easy. We're just going to scroll down here. I'm going to scroll all of these and close them up because we don't need all those. Down here on emission, click on this emission button, Octane emission. We want a texture emission. And then there is the texture emission. And then what I want to do is just going to go ahead and pipe that image into the texture right here on the top. Boom. Now, if we jump back, you're going to see the screen is completely blown out. And you're probably wondering why. Well, we can low down the power. Let's bring the power down to 1 watt. And it's still completely blown out. That's why we need to go ahead and turn on surface brightness. Here, on that. I do have a video that breaks down the lights in more particular. You can go down to check that out if you want. But then we're going to do that. So now we've got the screen here, and it's being projected inside of there. And you can even see we've got a little bit of reflection that's happening here on there, which is really nice. Okay. So what I'm also going to do, I'm going to go ahead and press Ctrl-Alt-B, clear out my render region. What I also want to do is give this a little bit of, like, you know, some imperfections on the screen there. We can kind of see it here. So what I'm going to do is kill the render for a minute, and I'm going to jump back here full screen. So what we can do, how we can do that, we can come here and go to material layer, and we're going to layer in another material basically. Here is my group layer. I'm going to go to layer 1, click on this, and I want to add in a specular layer. What I'm going to do here is bring back in the imperfection node that we had, right? Let's just go ahead and bring that back. I'm going to drag in the roughness generator, and I'm going to go ahead and plug that into the roughness, and let's go ahead and preview that. And then that's what we got going there. So now we can just use the procedural version. I think I'm going to scale it up a little bit, maybe something like that. I'm going to bring down the smudges, maybe bring in a little bit of the thin grunge. All right, go ahead and Control Shift click again on the material. I'm going to jump back in here, Control space bar. I'm going to add in a gradient map, aka color ramp. Okay, there is our image. I'm going to click on the color ramp, Control Shift click on the color ramp, and I'm just going to crunch these values a little bit here, give a little bit more contrast, and same thing, click back here on my material. All right, good. So we got a little bit of action there happening on the screen, just a little bit of noise, so it's not so perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into my camera, and let's kind of just take a look at and see what we got going. So not looking too bad here. Again, we can come in here and start tweaking on your roughness values. Like, I think the TV might be a little bit too diffuse. So I could, you know, crank up a little bit of, maybe kind of back off some of these noises here a little bit, like patchy noise, smudge, just to give a little bit more sheen on that, a little bit more shininess on that. Okay, so from there, what I'm going to do here next, I'm going to go ahead and on this game cartridge, I'm just going to put like a cover on top of it. I'm going to show you how we can put like a cover. So it's in 2 pieces here. We've got a top piece and a bottom piece. And I purposely did that because I knew that I wanted to have a cover on it, right? So I'm going to take the top piece, I'm going to tab in, and I'm going to go to face mode. I'm going to select this face right here. And all I'm going to do is press I and slowly inset it right there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is grab a new material, and I'm going to go over to my material tab, and I'm going to hit assign. Okay. And I'm going to come in here and name this cover. So I've also found another little basic, just find out whatever image you want to use for your cover. And I've already found another image that I want to use. And again, I'm going to use an RGB image. I'm going to bring that in, plug that into the albedo. I'm going to grab this specular, knock it down to 0.5. I'm going to take Octane to GGX energy preserve. And then I'm going to bring in the image that I found. Tab out of that, back to object mode. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the render. And now you can see I've got the image on top of here, but it's actually applied to the whole thing. And I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is go back. I kind of messed that up here. Before we inset, I want to just press Control I, and then I'm going to make another material, and I'm going to give this the dark. I'm going to give this the dark gray. Okay, and then I'm going to press Assign. So that will assign it on the outer edges here, right? And then the bottom piece, same thing. I'm going to grab the bottom piece and just give it the same color. All right. Now I'm going to come back here, and when we select this, I'm going to select Cover. Okay, in the Material tab over here. And what I want to do here, we're going to have to map on top of this again. So let's go to our UV editor. I'm going to come over here and change to the new image that I just brought in. And that's going to be this. And then I'm going to go and click period on the, so I can see what I'm working on here. I'm going to press Control I again to basically select that part. And I'm going to go U, again, cube projection. And then we jump out of here and we press A. And now you can see we've got our box here. So I just want to shrink this down onto one of these covers here. So I'm going to press SX, kind of something like that. G, kind of placing this right here on this Mario game right here on the top. I'm going to grab these top ones, select them, go GY, hold down shift when I get closer to the edge. Repeat the same process on the bottom. We just want to basically scale this up to size so it can take the whole cover. All right, tab out of that. Back to object mode, and then boom, there is the cover sitting there on top. Very nice. Now if you want to give that let's go back into our shading tab, and the same thing here on this one. I want to go ahead and bring in the imperfection node, and then I'm just going to break it up again, and I'm going to go ahead and bring these all to 0. I think I might leave in the smudges about 50%, and then the noise, patchy noise, kind of something like that. Plug that into the roughness, see what that's looking like. Looking really shiny here. I'm going to bring up patchy noise and then bring up smears. Matter of fact, color ramp. I'm going to press Control Shift on it here so I can see. I even bring in foggy noise. I want it to be kind of really diffuse because it's been touched and played with, right? All right, sweet. So we've got that going. We've got pretty much everything on it. Now, the only thing you can do is you can add something here on the base. I think I added a free wood material from like Texture Haven or Polygon Haven or something like that. So I added that in here, and I'll quickly show you how we can do that. Add in a new node. Again, select here, Octane GGX Energy Preserve, tab on it with Node Wrangler, Octane Node Wrangler, Control Shift T, and then select the material that you already downloaded or you want to use. So I've got this wood material here that I found on, I think, texture.org. So I want to grab the JPEG. I want to grab the normals. And then I'm going to grab the roughness. I'm not going to do displacement on this because it's kind of a low poly vibe, right? I'm going to press Shift, and I'm going to press, actually, I'm just going to press S and kind of scroll out a little bit. Again, we need to change our gamma to 1 on the roughness, and also on the normal, we need to change this to 1. The only time you want 2.2 gamma is on the albedo. So then I'm gonna go ahead and fire up the render, see what this looks like. Ooh, I love it. That looks great. We got a nice, good contrast there. Now it is a little bit dark, and then you can also see here on the edges, like it's kind of weird here. So the way we can fix that, we're gonna come in here and add in a projection. Now we're gonna go Shift A, and you can do it a box projection. Let's see what a box projection looks like first. We'll go to projection, box, and then go ahead and plug that into the projection of one of the nodes here. Shift right, left, or right mouse button, or whatever, Shift right mouse button, and then I'm going to just drag this onto all of them here so they're all connected. All right, so there's that. And to me, it's looking a little bit big. So then I'll come over here back to my values, and let's go ahead and maybe say 0.5. Scale that down. And one other little thing that you can do, I've kind of picked up from some of these Cinema 4D guys. Come in here, press Shift A, search S, go color, and you want a color correction node. And like, it's looking a little dark, right? So we can lighten that up. Put the color correction node on the albedo, And then for example here, we could knock the saturation down or whatever, but the gamma, if you take the gamma, hold down shift, and I'm just gonna go towards the left. And that's just going to, let me go extreme. You see, it's just gonna brighten it up a little bit, right? So we're just gonna actually do something like that. Just brighten that up a little bit. And you got other ones, contrast gain, you know, you can play with those, but I kind of like, and there it is. We pretty much have this whole thing all ready to go. All right, so there it is. We pretty much got that going. Now what you could do, if you can come in here, if you want to play with the HDRI to kind of get a better lighting setup, or you can switch out HDRIs. One HDRI that I've been quite fond of using recently was one from Polyhaven, the Brown Studio. I kind of like this one. It's a little bit more of a high key lighting look. You can kind of see here, a little bit more brighter, a little bit more punchy. And then you can go ahead again. And then I always advise playing with the transform here and just kind of scrolling around, getting some interesting looks, right? Check it out, just kind of rotating, seeing what looks cool. This really brings out the imperfections on the surface here. And then you really want to avoid lighting it from like this straight from the front. It's just going to be pretty much everything's going to be lit well. I like to have the shadows kind of at an angle, either facing towards the camera. So for example, let me hold down shift, something like this, where the shadows are facing towards down here towards the left, or if I can go opposite down here towards the right corner of the image, something like that. Or even a little bit, just maybe even straight down, facing straight at the camera, like there, the shadows are facing more straight here at the camera, more something like this. You can really see the top of the TV. It really brings out the details and stuff here. I'm gonna actually just shift it off a little bit towards the right here, so something like that. And I kind of like the way that looks there. One thing I like to final check that I do as far as my lighting here, I think I might want to bring in the composition a little bit, make it a little bit more tighter. I'll go to the camera, go down to my camera here, and I'm actually going to go and zoom in a little bit. I'm using a 90mm. Again, try to stick to real world specs on your cameras to get that, you know, somewhat, I mean, real world kind of vibe, or real, if you're trying to do that. I'm going to kind of bring it into about 100 and maybe 115, just taking up all that dead space there. I kind of like that. That looks nice. Okay. And then what I want to do, again, make sure I can check where my focal point is. My focal point is right there on the screen. And I'm going to go to f-stop. I'm going to use maybe, I'll probably rock the 2.8 aperture. I'm kind of liking that. And then again, make sure it's set properly where you want it. I like to hold down shift, and I want it just right here on the console and the screen, kind of right about something like there. Again, I want my main focal is the screen here. It's on. Screen is looking a little bit bright. I think I might lower that down a little bit. Let me go into the camera tab here on the top, scroll all the way down to the bottom. This is a little thing I like to do. Go to view transform, change it from raw to false color. This is something I do when I shoot videos. I learned this back in the day. So again, this is the false color readout. Red is overexposed. So the image is pretty hot. Like here, you can see this yellow. Here's the red. Red will be overexposed. So I'm going to bring out the camera imager, press in, and I go up to exposure. For example, if I go to 2, you can see, boom, that means the reds, that area is blown out, right? So I'm going to go back to 1, and I might even go maybe like a 0.85. Just kind of bring it down a little bit. Again, blue means dark shadows. Blue is clipping the shadows. So we are clipping the shadows a little bit. So let's go maybe 0.9. Not too bad. We're getting a little bit of blown out here, but that's fine. Okay. And then you can even mess with the vignetting here. Let me go back to my raw, and I'm a little bit of vignette. I'm gonna go 0.5 on the vignette. Maybe too much. 0.2. Nice. Saturation, easy with this saturation. I'm gonna go 1.2. The saturation here is can be very strong here. I like that. And then clipping my white highlights, I'm going to go ahead and crank that all the way up. And then you also have this here white saturation controls if clipping is done per channel. We don't have too much clipping, so I like the way that looks there. This is like nice and moody. We got a good like contrast between brights and the shadows there. And plus we can really see the surface imperfections there happening. All right, bonus tip. One little thing here, I'm going to go back to the shading edit really fast. I'm going to click on this ground plane that's in the scene, which doesn't have a material on it at the moment. This big ground plane here. I'm going to click on that, add a new material. I'm going to click in the name it here. I'm going to go on a SC, which is going to stand for shadow catcher. And then I'm going to go to my node, and I'm going to scroll all of these guys and close them. Just holding down. And you see right here, shadow catcher. I'm going to click on shadow catcher, jump back over here. And what that is basically saying it's a shadow catcher plane. So now we're seeing our HDRI in the scene, but that's not the problem. Check it out. I'm going to switch over to world. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make this full screen again. I'm going to take this texture environment, duplicate it, drag this guy out, and visible environment. I'm going to drag this up to visible environment. Then I'm going to scroll here and say backplate. I want this white thing, this white to be the backplate. It would come back to our viewport. Now you can see everything is white. Everything is white. And we're getting shadows on the floor from our box here, right? And it looks like we're getting a weird little shadow there happening. If we jump into the camera mode, yeah, that's good. I like what I'm seeing there. So what I'm also going to do here is check this out. Come in down back here, Shift A, S, and we're going to go GR, and we're going to go gradient generator. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put the texture out into the texture, and then I'm going to move this over here just a little bit, and you can see what's happening there. We're going to go and add in a gradient map. Drop that gradient map in there. And then on this gradient generator, I'm going to add a UV transform. And then I'm going to go ahead and rotate it 90. Click on this bottom one and go 90. Boom. So now we've got this gradient action happening. Now we can go ahead and select all these and scale this down to kind of control where this gradient is happening. You can see there's our gradient. So obviously you don't want that in the shot. I should jump into the camera. Let's jump into the camera so we can see what's happening. There it is. Now I'm gonna come over here, go ahead and just scale that up so we can get a slight little gradient happening. This black is a little bit too dark, so I'm gonna lighten that up a little bit like that. And the same with the white. I don't want anything pure black or pure white because that doesn't exist in real life. And then I'll come over here with the translation and just kind of, I think it was this one here. We're gonna just see if we can get this thing to move. Okay, it's not that one. Let's set that back to 0. Drag this one up. Okay, we can kind of see it moving there. I'm actually gonna go back to 0. Now I'm actually probably just going to do it with the scale and scale this down. Okay, there's my gradient line. So what I want to do, just get a slight gradient action happening. Maybe we can even crunch this down here. And maybe I can even go a little bit darker here on the black. There we go. All right, so let me jump back over to my full camera. All right, and that kind of darkened up my image a little bit. So no biggie, we just go to our camera imager and we can come back and tweak our values. Maybe let's go like 1.2. Kind of punch it back up a little bit, maybe to 1.4, and there it is. So that wasn't too hard, was it? I have this playlist here of other videos that may help you guys also. And if you're really into Blender Octane, go down to the Gumroad where I have a whole bunch of free materials and free assets that will also help you on your journey on learning Blender Octane. Patrick LeVar, keep rendering. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.